Today's deck tech comes to us courtesy of commenter Jose Pedro 9926, wanting a budget brew focused on Rowan, Scion of War. This deck follows the age-old anime strategy of hurting ourselves to hurt others. By the time we're finished, our opponents will be begging us to stop hitting ourselves.
No, please, have mercy!
If you like an explosive deck that plays on the razor's edge, then this is the deck for you.
I also like to live dangerously.
Rowan, Scion of War is a 3-mana, 1 generic, 1 red, and 1 black 4/2 legendary creature human wizard with menace that says, tap. Spells you cast this turn that are black and or red cost X less to cast this turn, where X is the amount of life you've lost this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. The deck's whole strategy is spelled out in that effect line. The more life we lose, the bigger discount our spells get, but it also puts us in a precarious predicament because if someone has a way to make us lose some life at instant speed, or a way to deal direct damage, all our life loss efforts are for nothing.
But I fear I may have girl bossed a bit too close to the sun.
That's what makes this deck a delicate balancing act between gaining and losing life. Our creatures are going to be the biggest enablers for our life loss strategy, starting with Blood Pet. This is money in the bank for either a rainy day, turn early Rowan, or casting a huge X spell that's missing a black mana pip. Gold Hound is a slower version of Blood Pet, but better in that it can be any color of mana. Skirk Prospector is Blood Pet but for red mana. Thrall Parasite has a niche ability to take counters away from creatures, which though it might not always be relevant, does come in handy for some scenarios. The real reason we play the Thrall is because it has Extort, which is one of the best ways to stay slightly ahead of our opponents when we play chicken with our life total. Immolating Soul Eater, with its ability, we can sneak in some heavy damage if need be, but it's better used as a way to dump our life into it once Rowan is out. Magma Pummeler is a great deterrent to keep our opponents from attacking us unless they want to take a lot of damage. Mere Convert does a little of it all, adding mana, losing life, and it also has Toxic, so a possible alternative win condition. Tavern Swindler is basically a Somberwald Sage with Rowan out. It doesn't even matter if you win the coin flip because you still lost the 3 life. Arco Flagellant, indestructibility by paying life, gives us an outlet to essentially go as low as we want to get the biggest discount for our X spells as possible. Exocrine can take everyone out, ourselves included.
Today's the day!
To end the game in a draw, or you can use it as a board wipe. But it can also win the game if you cast some life gain spells before you cast it, putting your life total higher than what's going to be put into the X. Wall of Blood is essentially another way to get huge X spells. Defiler of the Flesh lets us pay Phyrexian mana, 2 life, or black pips and permanents, and then, when you do, you can give a creature +1/+1 and menace. Defiler of Instinct again does the Phyrexian mana thing, but for red permanents, and it also deals 1 damage to any target when we cast a red permanent. Gonti, Lord of Luxury, is just in case our list of spells isn't doing it for you. Why not pick at the blue deck and see if you can get some counter spells for protection? Orcus, Prince of Undeath, is a massive reanimation spell with Rowan out, or could just be a way to get back 1 or 2 key creatures, but you can also use it as a board wipe with its first ability. Just be careful because this also causes a loss of life, so you could be flirting with death more than what's comfortable. Soul Drinker is another dump life in, get big creature, cast big spell. Grey Merchant of Asphodel is usually just 2 black mana pips for us to cast that, and the life gain is oh so important. Street Wraith is a great way to lose some life for free one time with its cycle ability to cast some other spells to conserve mana. Zealous Conscripts can take a creature to help get in some damage, or you could untap Rowan to tap her again to double up the discount you've gotten for the turn. Magus of the Mirror, once we've spent our life, let's swap it for someone else's so we can spend even more of it. Molten Steel Dragon can be cast for free if you pay 4 life and Rowan has been tapped for 4, but 4 mana and 4 life for a way to dump more life down the drain for our spells is worth it. Pontiff of Blight has Extort and gives other creatures Extort, which is some much needed life gain. Angrath's Marauders helps those X spells deal double damage, so now the amount of life you need to sink into the X damage spells is cut in half. Defiant Bloodlord, with all the other life gain cards we have, plus the huge swaths of life we will be gaining, why not turn that into more damage? And Lorcan Warlock Collector, paying life to take our opponent's creatures, count us in. Our sorceries bring even more pain to the party while also offering us some safety blankets for padding our life total. Battle Battle at the Bridge is targeted removal, but is also a huge life gain card for 1 black mana. Doomsday Confluence can do multiple things depending on how much we put into the double X, making each player sacrifice a non-artifact creature, create a 3/3 black Dalek artifact creature token with menace, or each opponent discards a card. Feel free to mix and match for maximum effectiveness. Fireball is a great way to take all of our opponents out at once. Stir the Grave, another X spell that will let us return a creature from our graveyard to play. Cut of the Prophets, card draw and life loss, an excellent example of exactly what we want to be doing. Damnable Pact is in a similar vein. Dread Summons will dump lots into our graveyard to choose from while also making us a bunch of zombies. Feed the Swarm for removal and life loss. Jaya's Immolating Inferno, another way to just take out all of our opponents without affecting us as well. Profane Command lets us do 2 things for the X we put in, like target player losing X life, return a creature card, removal, or giving creatures fear. Rolling Thunder can deal big damage, but unfortunately, unless it's paired with some life gain, there's no way we can lose enough life to take down the whole table without killing us beforehand. Sign in Blood, draw 2, lose 2, right where we want to be. Read the Bones is similar. Seize the Spoils can be as low as 1 red mana, and granting us a treasure makes it essentially Shreds of Sanity lets us get a second chance at winning the game by returning an instant and sorcery from our graveyard to our hand, letting us cast them again. Chain Reaction for more removal. Cut/Ribbons. Cut is not impressive, but 4 damage to a creature can remove a lot in the early game. The real reason we play it is for the ribbons, because it lets us drain each opponent for X and 2 black. Also letting us cast it from the graveyard gives it a sneaky factor. Diabolic Tutor lets us grab whatever we need. Command the Dreadhorde, grab any creature or planeswalker from any graveyard. Insult/Injury turns big turns into game-winning turns. Zoph Consumption drains each opponent for 4 and you gain 4. It's also a land in a pinch. And Apex of Power becomes an insurmountable advantage, letting us go 7 cards deep and adding 10 mana. In response, our instants keep the pain train rolling, for us mostly. Erebos' Intervention is removal with life gain attached, but in a pinch you could use it to remove problematic things in other people's graveyards. Fall of the Titans can be a blowout if you could pay the surge cost instead of the real cost, but unfortunately it can only take out 2 things at most. V is for Vendetta, which is removal for non-black creatures, but more importantly we lose life equal to the creature's toughness. Comet Storm, another banger for taking out the table. Devour and Shadow is like Vendetta, but it's 2 black mana instead of 1. Talk about power creep. Blood Pact is like Sign in Blood, except it's 1 more mana because it's an instant. And Crypt Incursion is a phenomenal card to get rid of a big graveyard and gain a lot of life. Artifacts mostly help with mana. Wayfarer's Bauble, Eye of Vecna can draw us a card for 2 life, and then as long as we want to pay 2 mana for it, we can keep doing it every upkeep. Commander's Sphere for mana, same with Darksteel Ingot. Lastly, Soul Conduit will let us swap life totals with our slightly healthier opponents to keep the party going. Enchantments tie the deck up with a bow. Font of Agonies rewards us with counters for taking damage, which we can then turn into removal. Warlock class has 3 modes, a small drain ability, a small card selection ability, then a huge draining effect for its final form. Dark Tutelage gets us an extra card each turn for a minuscule price of life loss equal to its casting cost. Lastly, Greed to give us some card draw life loss that we can then use to churn out some big spells. Lands bring the deck home with Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, Smoldering Marsh, 14 mountains, and 19 swamps. Currently, this deck can be yours for under $22, and if you already have Rowan, the most expensive card in the deck, you could probably get the rest for under $20, making it an excellent pickup for the holiday to get someone into the hobby, or for more experienced players looking to expand their collection. This is usually where I would cover combos, but this deck doesn't have combos as much as it is about knowing sequencing and when to go. So once you get a couple reps in with the deck, you should be good to go. Just keep in mind your life total is something you should always be aware of. Moving on to the upgrades, which drastically boost the deck's power level. First, Mana Rocks, Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, Talisman of Indulgence, and Rakdos Signet. All great includes to have bigger turns as well as get Rowan out soon. Anger is great, as this will allow you to tap Rowan the turn she comes out, getting the benefits immediately. Peer into the Abyss over Ad Nauseam, because Nauseam might kill you with all the different CMC spells you have, and not knowing what you're going to hit. Pier lets us take half our life for half our library every time. Treasonous Ogre and Blood Celebrant both let us convert life into mana, which generates us a bigger discount when we make that mana to spend. Exsanguinate, Crackle with Power, and Torment of Hailfire are fantastic X spells that will be absolutely massive once Rowan starts doing her thing. Why should we be the only ones at a low life? Let's bring everyone down to our level by playing Repay in Kind. Once everyone's at our level, it makes taking them out with other spells that much more manageable. If you have the money, a D-Swat would be a fantastic spell for some protection for Rowan, and Bolus's Citadel will let us cast spells from the top of our library while also letting us pay life, feeding into our massive spells with Rowan's ability. Sliding right into cards to cut, Magma Pummeler is good on a budget but doesn't stack up to the upgrades, cut it. Defiler of Flesh and Defiler of Instinct both don't necessarily fit with the rest of the deck. When you factor in the upgrades, I'd cut it. Gonti, Lord of Luxury, is a great card to get access to some spells you might not have, but when compared to the upgrades, it doesn't measure up. I'd cut it. Commander Sphere and Darksteel Ingot work way better as any of the other mana rocks I've mentioned. Cut them. Crypt Incursion is great for some budget life gain, but when you could play Exsanguinate, it doesn't stack up. I'd cut it. And Eye of Vecna is great on a budget, but we can do better with a bigger budget. I'd cut it. Well, that's the deck with some upgrades and some cards to cut. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as it goes a long way to supporting the channel. Comment your favorite card from the deck or a card you would add, or a commander you would like to see built on a budget. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.